If you're like me, you have probably played a lot of online chess, and maybe you're trying to talk yourself into your first over the board tournament game, or maybe you did convince yourself and you're signed up and you're looking to prepare. Now, there are a ton of great videos out there with tips and etiquette for competitive chess, things like you touch the clock with the same hand you move your piece with. That is not at all what this video is going to be about. This video is about the things that surprised me even after watching videos like that. They're typically made by chess professionals, people who have been competing their entire lives. Their first over-the-board tournament was probably when they were a young child. My first over-the-board experience was when I was a 31-year-old adult, and with that came a lot of psychological and emotional aspects that I wasn't prepared for. So in this video, I'm going to review the 5 things that surprised me most in my first over-the-board tournament. The first one being the psychology of playing another human in front of you. If you play online chess, you know that there's a lot of comfort in playing on your phone in your bed or on the couch, or if you play on your computer, maybe in your office. It's a space that you are familiar with, you're comfortable, there's anonymity, they can't see you, you can't see them. If you're having a great game, you can get excited. If you're having a bad game, you can get frustrated, and they can't see that. When you play over the board, all of that changes. I was shocked at the amount of time in my very first over the board game, how much time I spent thinking about my opponent, them, their body language, the human in front of me, not the board, not the game, not future variations or calculations. I was thinking about the human in front of me because I was so unfamiliar with that aspect. You can see their emotions. They can see your emotions. If you make a great move and you see them get frustrated, that makes you feel so good. If you make a bad move and you react like you blundered, your opponent's going to see that and be calculating for where the mistake that you just saw was made. So be aware of that going into your first tournament. You may be playing a kid. Most likely you're going to be playing a kid. If you're playing in lower rated sections of tournaments because you're new to over the board chess, you'll be playing a child. They're physically much smaller than you. That plays into the psychology. They're going to get up from the table more frequently than an adult would. Their attention span is just shorter. Kids are going to be walking all over the playing hall. They're going to be standing behind your opponent. They're going to stand behind you, looking at your game. If your game goes long, you're in an end game. You may gather a crowd of people who have finished their games. These are all aspects that I totally was not ready for going into my first tournament, but it's something that you should be aware of. Number 2, and this one is obvious, but the 3-dimensional vision is so different than 2-dimensional vision. Pieces can physically hide behind one another on the board. My perception of knight jumps on like a tournament-sized board in front of me is that they could jump so much further than on my tiny little phone screen. And even though they're making the same move, it's that perception of how far that knight can jump on the board felt so different when I was first playing over the board. Visualizing the positions is different as you calculate several moves ahead and you're trying to imagine what that looks like on the board. It's very different than doing that in 2 dimensions because you're so used to playing online chess, but you're not used to the 3-dimension of it when you're playing over the board. So if you have the opportunity, try to play an over the board game or as many as you can before you show up to your tournament. It will just help with that vision of the actual board and the vision in your head as you calculate and try to think about, all right, does the resulting position favor me or not? That's something that you can do to help you prepare. Number 3, notating moves. That was something that I was completely unfamiliar with. If you're not aware, you do need to notate your moves as you play. And what that means is you've got to write down in chess algebraic notation where your opponent moved and where you moved with the square coordinates. And if you're not used to doing that, I was shocked at the amount of brain space that took up as I was trying to think about, did he just move? Was that D3 or D4 or which rank, which file is it? Try as much as you can. You can prepare for that before you go into your tournament, even if you're only playing online. Go into chess.com or Lichess. You can play on focus mode, or on Lichess, it's called Zen mode. And what that does is it hides everything except the board. Play a long time control game, play unrated if you want, casual, whatever, but write down every move on a piece of paper. It will force you to think about where the piece moved to, what the coordinate of each square is. You're not going to become an expert like you see in the videos of chess GMs just rattling off all of the moves in a row, but it is going to limit the amount of thinking that you have to do when you show up to your first chess tournament. I think it helped me a lot doing that. That takes me to my next point, the fourth point, which is doing all the things over the board, physically moving the piece, touching the clock, and writing down the move. Not only do you have to think about those things, but they take literal time. When you play online, all of that is done instantaneously, and you can continuously think about the game that's going on in front of you. You can evaluate the position, you can calculate forward without interrupting with, oh, I got to hit the clock. Oh, I got to write down the move. Oh, what square did they move to? Oh my God, I missed a few moves. Now I got to think back. And all of that time that you're thinking about those things is time you're not using to calculate and evaluate the position on the actual board. So that's just something else that I wasn't quite aware of. And when you're playing classical time control, yes, that amount of time probably is not long in the grand scheme of things, especially if you're playing something like game in 60 plus 30, game in 90 plus 30. Maybe that entire process of making the move, hitting the clock, writing down the move takes 5 to 7 seconds. If you're super new, maybe it's even longer, 7 to 12 seconds. That will start to add up and you will start to fall behind on the clock. You'll start thinking about that aspect of the game. Oh, my opponent has more time than me. So again, as much as you can in advance of the tournament, try to prepare yourself by playing over the board, notating chess moves, learning the coordinates of the board. There's no guarantee that the board you're playing on is going to have the rank and files marked. So that is going to add, some complications if you're unfamiliar with doing that. So try to prepare yourself by playing over the board and writing the moves down. And lastly, it's exhausting, especially if you're playing a classical tournament that lasts multiple rounds. Typically, they last multiple days. Maybe it's a Saturday, Sunday. Maybe it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That is a lot of time to be playing chess. Not only do you have to physically go to wherever you're playing, you're spending a lot of time in probably a not well-lit room, a lot of time thinking, calculating. You're stressed. It's your first tournament. Maybe you're playing several games in the same day. You could be playing upwards of 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe even more hours of chess in a single day. It is just exhausting. So bring food to the tournament, bring water, try to mimic your home playing environment as much as you can. If you drink coffee when you play, bring coffee. If you drink tea when you play, bring tea. If it's late at night, bring decaf. I did all of those things, and they really help kind of ground you or center you in something that is comfortable, because just about everything else, when you play over the board for the first time, is going to be unfamiliar to you. So just be aware that it's exhausting at the end of the weekend. If you're an adult improver like me, you've got to show up to work the next day. You need to think about on that Sunday night, you're probably going to want time to yourself to decompress, not think about chess anymore, and just relax. But despite all of those things, despite the exhaustion and kind of those psychological curveballs that I wasn't prepared for in my first tournament, it is still so incredibly rewarding and fun, and I can't recommend it enough. Go play in an over-the-board tournament. You learn so much about your game when you do that. I had so much fun, and at the end of the day, you're still playing chess. Is it different than playing online? Sure, but you're playing the same game, and if you're considering playing over the board, you should absolutely do that. That concludes what I wanted to talk about in today's video. If you stuck around this long, thank you. Let me know what you think about your first over-the-board tournament. If you have any questions about going into your first tournament, ask in the comments. I'd be happy to answer them. If this video was helpful to you, you can support my channel by liking this video, subscribing to my channel. I hope to continue bringing more interesting chess content. Until then, thank you again, and please let me know what you think in the comments.